Are you serious? Are you serious? Human cloning. I want to thank all of you for being partners with me and being members of my Patreon channel. Now, I have been searching deep into the files on human cloning. We do have some information that has been released, but there is 27 pages of the federal government on human cloning that is unclassified. I repeat, unclassified. But I do have some information, and then we have other reports from other nations that we would like to share with you. First of all, in the summary from the federal government, in December of 2005, an investigation by the Seoul National University of South Korea found that scientist Wang Woo-suk had fabricated, he had lied, on the results deriving from a patient-matched stem cells from cloned embryos. A major setback for the field, but in May of 2005, Huang had announced a significant advance in creating human embryos using cloning methods and in isolated human stem cells from cloned embryos. Now, these developments have contributed to the debate of the 109th Congress of the United States on the moral and ethical implications of human cloning. Scientists in other labs, including Harvard University and the University of California at San Francisco, intended to produce cloned human embryos in order to derive stem cells for medical research on diabetes, Parkinson's disease, and other diseases. President George Bush announced, though, in August of 2001, that for the first time, federal funds would be used to support research on human embryonic stem cells, but funding would be limited to existing stem cell lines. Federal funds cannot be used for cloning of human embryos for any purpose, including stem cell research. And in July of 2002, President Bush's Council on Bioethics released its report on human cloning, which unanimously recommended a ban on reproductive cloning, and by a vote of 10-7, a 4-year moratorium on cloning for medical research purposes. This took place in 2001. Okay? Now, the ethical issues surrounding reproductive cloning and commodification and safety identity and therapeutic cloning, embryos' moral status, relief of suffering, impact various proposals for regulation, restrictions, and bans, and the uses of federal funding. But in January of 2002, the National Academics released a scientific and medical aspects of human reproductive cloning. It recommended that the United States ban human reproductive cloning aimed at creating a child. It suggested that the ban be enforceable and carry substantial penalties. The panel noted that the ban should be reconsidered within 5 years. That would take us to 2007. However, the panel concluded that cloning to produce stem cells should be permitted because of the potential for developing new therapies and advancing biomedical knowledge. On May the 24th, 2005, the House passed H.R. 810, Castle, which would allow federal support of research that uses human embryonic stem cells, regardless of the date on which the stem cells was derived from a human embryo, thus negating the Bush stem cell policy limitation on existing stem cell lines. And in July of 2006, the Senate passed H.R. 810, and President Bush vetoed it, the first veto of his presidency. An attempt in the House to override the veto was unsuccessful. Action on the Weldon bill, which passed the House in the 108th Congress, stalled in the Senate. It is also possible. It was reintroduced in the 109th Congress in Bill H.R. 1357 and S. 658 under Brownback. The bill bans the process of cloning as well as the importation of any product derived from an embryo created through cloning. It bans not only reproductive applications, but also research on therapeutic uses, which has implications for stem cell research. Advocates of the legislative ban say that allowing any form of human cloning research to proceed raises the serious ethical issues that will inevitably lead to the birth of a baby that is a human clone. Critics of the ban argue that the measure would curtail medical research and prevent Americans from receiving life-saving treatments created overseas. This report will be updated, of course, as needed. That was the end of the report. It was 2006. Everything else going on right now in the federal government since 2006 is unclassified. And we do not know what all they've done. But I do have reports. Now, I've spoken, I have some connections. And a former NSA agent that told me, absolutely, looked me right dead in the eye and said, absolutely, human cloning is going on in underground laboratories in the world. And then I said, are you talking the United States? And then there was a silence. Can you tell me where in the United States? Can you tell me where these labs are? In the world, he said. Where? Europe? Asia? Russia? Where? In the world. They're underground, and it's highly effective. Look at Mali. It's highly effective. My question was, does the clone have a soul? Or are they soulless? Can you tell me? From an ethical standpoint, can you tell me, does the cloned individual have a soul? Or is the child soulless? And how many are out there? And again, I got that blank stare. Folks, that was 13. Since 2006, we've had no information publicly been released. You see no more debate, no more confrontation, no more discussion going on in the Congress about cloning. Dead silence. Dead silence. There's no question. It's going on. Do we know what the purpose is? We have splicing of the genetic makeup of an individual. We have DNA manipulation, genetically modified. Look, you know what's going on. The ability to genetically modify organisms, human beings, GMO people, splicing people. In other words, mixing the genes of humans and animals. Cloning's going on. And we can get nothing from the federal government. Zero, nothing, not a word spoken about this. And it's real creepy now. It's getting real creepy. And when you start thinking about it, the Bible talks about in Genesis chapter 6 how that the fallen ones looked upon the daughters of men, saw they were fair, and took them wives as they chose, and they bore them children, men of great renown, giants in the land. This went on before and after the flood. We know that the entire land of Canaan was filled with tribes of giants. Canaanites, Hittites, Jebusites, Moabites, Hivites, Amalekites, Rephaims, Nephilims, Philistines. They were everywhere. You had all kinds of stuff. And so the children of Israel, Joshua and Caleb said, look, we look like grasshoppers. These guys were around 12, 13 foot tall. Tribes of giants, genetically modified and manipulated, spiritually bred, demonically charged. What do you think they got now? Are you serious? Are you serious? Are you serious? There is information out there. There is definitely something going on. Word on the street. A hybrid is being formed. I'm not talking transhumanism either. Hybrids. 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 What's going to crawl out of the bottomless pit with Abaddon? Hybrids.